Bimin says, they think they are silent, while their heart criticize other people. They do not remain silent, but continually chatter inwardly. They talk to themselves like a person with schizophrenia. They argue amongst themselves. Then there are those who do not communicate with other people at all, but they live totally isolated, caring only about themselves and what concerns them, their worries, their problems, their needs, and whatever. They too may suffer from depression. There are persons who are prone to depression because they have neither faith nor hope in God.
Yeah, but what if people who don't like anyone, what if they live a happy life? Because they're not near.
A person who doesn't go with anybody and is totally on their own, there is something wrong. Why? We are created as communal beings, to be with people, to talk with people, to associate with people, to be warmed by another's love and caring and understanding. Now, what is the consequence of depression? The consequence of depression, my beloved brothers and sisters, they're dreadful. Let us consider the remarks of our Orthodox faith regarding this matter. Saint Cassianus writes, the demon of depression obscures the soul's capacity for thinking properly. When a person is depressed or is suffering from paranoia, he doesn't think logically. He thinks that everyone's against them. Anything that someone says or does, they are against them, because they cannot see reasoning and think clearly, because the demon of depression obscures their capacity to think logically and the way they're supposed to be. Well, on the other hand, he keeps it away from any kind of good work. Furthermore, the demon prevents the sufferer from reading. And the most important thing that he stops us to read is the Holy Gospel, the Scriptures, the writings of the Fathers, to learn the truth, to learn about Christ, to realize and to know that with faith you have hope, and with hope you have life eternal, and some sort of life in this world, no matter how much suffering and struggling we do and have in this life that we live. Seizing the entire soul, depression then fills it with bitterness. They don't want to be with anyone. Hence, they lock themselves up in the room with the lights out and not have anyone around them. Not even their wife, not even their children, not even their mother, not even their father, no one. How do I know this? I've lived it. I've lived depression. And because I've lived depression, I am talking about it with such passion, because I'm thinking of how and the pain that I caused those that I loved around me, most of all. Although I'm a priest, I still have my weaknesses, because I am a human being just like each and every one of you. If you cut my hand, I bleed. If you slap me, I'll feel the pain. If I get cold, it's because I am a human being and I understand how that feels. But when you have Christ, you have hope. With Christ, you can conquer all. You can move mountains. And the greatest mountain of all is the struggle that you are struggling with. Whether it will be a breakup, whether it will be your depression, whether it will be someone suffering from cancer, or whatever the case may be. Let us look at the self-portrait of a saint who experienced depression in a period of his life. He is Ava Dorotheos. Here is what he writes. While I was still there, I was attacked for the first time by an unbearable depression, as was feeling a terrible fatigue and constriction, as if I were going to lose my soul. Surely that depression was caused by the influence of demons, and that temptation was coming from the envy of evil spirits. I was feeling extremely gloomy, in a dark mood, inconsolable feeling, no rest, but crushed and choked from everywhere. Fortunately, the Lord's grace came fast to my soul, because I was going through something that no one can bear. Listlessness is another consequence of depression, which Saint Cassian the Roman writes.
What is listless?
The demon of listlessness is closely, I'll explain to you in a second as we're going along. He is closely connected and works in hand with the demon of depression. This is a harsh, terrible demon, making the man slack and full of fear, inspiring him with hatred for the place where he lives, the environment he goes, the places he visits, with anyone that he is with. He cannot sit down with them. He moves around. He's listless. He can't understand why he's feeling like this.
Yeah,
and it is because of the cunning one.
If we know the devil gives us the depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then why? But wouldn't the person know he is doing it?
No.
His enemy?
A lot of people don't realize this.
Oh.
When you're suffering from it, you don't realize it. But eventually, or at the end of the talk, I'll be talking on things that we can do to help ourselves with depression and how to overcome it. The reading of the Holy Scriptures is very important, because there, as we said, you will find hope, and when you find hope, then you have the will to learn and to grow something. The Apostle Paul, being a very wise physician, very well knew that this sickness is indeed serious and must be eradicated from our soul. Therefore, he indicates its main causes and advises. Now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw yourselves from every brother who lives in idleness, unruly and inactive, and not according to the tradition which you have received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to imitate us. We were not idle when we were with you. We did not eat anyone's bread without paying, but with toil and labor we worked night and day, that we might not burden you. It was not because we have not that right, but to give you by our conduct an example to imitate. For even when we were with you, we gave you this command: if anyone will not work, let him not eat. For we hear that some of you are living in idleness, mere busybodies, not doing any work. St. Paul, the teacher of the nations, the herald of the gospel, toiled strenuously night and day, so that he might not be a burden to anyone. So what should we do when we are seized by laziness? Next, he very clearly proves the harm born of listlessness, because from laziness, a symptom of listlessness, comes inquisitiveness, and from inquisitiveness, unruliness, and from unruliness, every form of evil. The Holy Fathers say that as a rule, a person who works is attacked and afflicted by a single demon, while he who suffers from listlessness and doesn't work is taken by 1,000 evil spirits. And this is why when a person has an idle mind, it's the devil's playground. You start thinking of everything. You start feeling sorry for yourself when things aren't going your way. You feel jealous of other people because they have moved on with their lives. They got married, they built their homes, they opened their homes, they had children, they married their children, and you're still sitting there. These are the thoughts that the cunning one puts in. And all these demons that come in with all these thoughts attack us. And remember that Satan has the authority from God to tempt us to the point where we can say no. St. John Climacus, he writes about listlessness, which has approximately the same symptoms as depression. Listlessness is the paralysis of the soul and the laxity of the intellect. Where the person is lazy and doesn't want to do anything, and he has an idle mind, he veggies on the couch all day, he doesn't do any work. Look at all the things that he thinks of. Then when it comes for that person to have a normal conversation with somebody, whether it be about football, the weather, or anything, they can't do it. The intellect goes backwards. I got a very close friend of mine, which we've grown up from when we were at school. When he was going to school, he was a genius. His writing, perfect. His speech, exquisite. He was an orator. The years have gone by. He never worked. He never did anything, although he's got his certificates and everything. Today, you get him to write. My granddaughter, who's 5.5 years old, 6 years old, his writing is better. She structures the sentences better than he does today. This is what happens if you don't use this and use it widely. Finally, the greatest and most terrible consequence of depression is death. Not only the death of the soul or the body, but most importantly, the death of the soul. Since it can lead to suicide. Apostle Paul writes, the sorrow of the world produces death. Before proceeding further, I should point out that Orthodox theology, originating more than 1,500 years ago to the present, has properly observed and studied this psychological sickness of depression. This is obvious from the fact that even the few references cited above reveal the exact diagnosis of depression, its symptoms, also its signs, and as you can see, do not greatly differ from the observation of contemporary medicine. For when we read the relevant medical texts, we see that they also include many similar observations. Depression, as I said, is an illness of the body and the soul. As the body requires a physician and medicine to help it, whether it be antidepressants, headache tablets, whatever the case may be, depending on the severity, you must follow the guidance of your physician. For the illness of depression of the soul, then you must go to the physician of the soul, who is your spiritual father. This is why it is important that each and every Orthodox Christian should have a spiritual father. When you build a relationship with your spiritual father, the cunning one does not want this. And so, he gives you 1,001 reasons why you shouldn't go to confession. It could be, I can't trust my spiritual father. Or, I'm not happy with his judgment. Or, he's too strict. Or, he's too relaxed with me. Or, he's not strict enough. That is the work of the cunning one. Beware. No matter how grave the sin is, you confess it. You find your spiritual father. Your spiritual father then will give you the appropriate guidance to help you overcome that illness. And then, with the perfect medication that you receive from the Lord, you will find medication. You may ask,